Welcome to another episode of Prepper Talk Radio, radio for the ready-minded, the podcast for the prepared. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for being with us live Wednesday. It's Wednesday, I think it's August 14th, and we're 6 o'clock Mountain, live on Facebook, live on YouTube. So if you're on either of those, click the like button. And if you're on YouTube, you'll actually notice we have upgraded our YouTube channel a little bit. We qualified for the YouTube Partner Program, which means that if you guys are up to it or open to it, of course, we would appreciate anything, but you guys can actually click on Super Thanks, I believe, and get us you donate to the show, support the show, whatever you want to do. So if you do that, we will shout you out. We will kind of say, hey, thanks and all their things. So just be ready for that. But make sure you hit the like button and let us know how you that the algorithm know that we're here and we're live and people are watching. So tonight we are bringing this episode to you of the newest episode of Financial Collapse. We're bringing you this information via our great friends at amp-3.net. There are our first aid go-to. If you need a first aid kit, this is the kit to get. They have several different kits based on the needs that you have. They have travel kits. They have major surgical kits. So they have all kinds of great kits. They're American made, American owned. And we know the owners, they're our friends, and we really appreciate what their products bring to market. And so if you want to go to amp-3.net and use code PrepperTalk, you'll get 15%. That's 15% off any of their kits that are there. Also, please remember that, when SHTF, you can't go to the local pharmacy. So you're going to need to make sure you're hitting up Jase Medical, JASE.com. I think they changed their website. It used to be Jase Medical. Now you can actually just do it with Jase, JASE, and run with that. So really appreciate you guys going and supporting the show by checking out our sponsors and whatnot. So looks like we have our first super chat. Gray Man Actual. Thank you so much. That is super awesome.
That's really awesome.
Thanks.
Awesome, man.
Thank you very much.
It's funny because tonight we're talking about finances, and we just talked about like AMP3, and I think every time I have like a major bleed, if I'm hemorrhaging, I want to stop the bleeding, right? Man, our finances as a country are hemorrhaging, and there's no first aid kit big enough for that garbage. Like we've got a lot going on. We're going to talk about tonight. It is, it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, on the plus side, the interest rates are down a little bit right now. Like you can now get a home loan for less than 6%, which is phenomenal considering.
I guess it's phenomenal.
6.75, like a whole giant full point down. It's amazing. That means that you're.
I saw an ad. There's somebody's like, make sure you refinance out of your huge 7% loan. I'm like, it's only 6%. Like it's not that much.
Down to 6.5% from 7.25 to 6.5. Right.
Well, and what's unfair is the builders are buying down rates. And so if you're going to buy an existing home, you're going to pay half to a whole percent of more than what the builders are giving, because the builders are jacking up prices.
So they can buy down the rate.
Oh, hey man, you got to buy this. So we're in the Utah market, but I work in real estate across the country. But in the Utah market, it's like you got to buy this $800,000 starter home. Excuse me, what?
Starter.
And it should be $600,000, and that's still crazy starter home, right? But it's like their profit margins are huge, and then they're buying down the interest rate, and so you're buying it down. You're just paying more for the house than what it's really worth. And it's funny, people are throwing these memes out and they're like, oh yeah, I've got so much money in my house now, it's amazing. No, your dollar is devalued. Your house has not increased in value. Your dollar has devalued so much.
It's such an evil word, equity. That is such a
I'm all about cash is king, not equity. So hey, welcome Practical. Thanks for joining the show. Sandra, everybody, welcome. One of the things I don't know, the last couple of weeks we've had a really strong downturn. It was kind of scary, actually. I was watching the markets, of course, but we had a huge downturn. We had peaked actually and really nicely, and then everybody was like, "Woohoo!" And then bam, we had this dramatic drop in the market, and now we're seeing it climb back up a little bit. It's kind of like, was that what I think they call that in investing? They call it a dead cat bounce. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But I appreciate the markets going the way they are. At least for a little while. And I don't know if you guys heard, but Trump, I looked up a couple different things as I was preparing for the show. Trump is supposed to have said that if Kamala wins, there's going to be an even bigger crash. So of course, everybody's, we're all threatening all the candidates threaten each other and threaten the world about what, if you don't vote for me, but we're seeing a potential opportunity for weird market fluctuations right now.
Yeah, I've watched a number of houses in my neighborhood. For curiosity, we're not planning on selling anytime soon. And I don't care for the word equity in a home. It's the only way you can get any kind of equity out of your home is with debt, right? Or you sell it and then you don't have a home, you don't have a place to live, right? So that's the evil word of equity, right? So, but it makes you feel good. Oh, look how much my net worth is, right? It's imaginary. It's a number on a screen. It doesn't actually exist, But I've noticed, of course, homes are on the market a little bit longer. It's not real extreme, but there are more homes that have reduced their price a pretty good amount. I mean, pretty good amount, 10, 20 grand here and there, up for a $6,000, $7,000, $100,000 house, maybe close to $1 million. So I think it's starting to take its toll. But I think it was Sandra saying that our price is going to go down. What was the comment here? I'm looking for it here. Okay, isn't the house price going to be another 2008? I don't know. 2008, our price was half the house. Our house was half the price it is now. If we're ever going to get down there again, I at one point I thought that it's inevitable, but I think there are way too many factors that we're going to keep them high.
I think there's certain markets that are going to completely tank first, right? Supported markets like, for example, state of New York, state of Illinois, state of Arizona, state of California. I think those markets and state of Texas. Those are the scariest markets in real estate because they're also the highest purchased markets for corporations buying single family homes. And now, like in New York,
they're BlackRock.
Chicago, yeah, that's BlackRock. That it's disgusting, but it's what it is. We've got similar problems here in Utah. There are a number of private equity firms that are buying up single family homes, which have increased the values, the prices, increased the price point, not the values.
Prices, yeah,
increased the dollar amount of garbage that you're buying with your house. But the reality is the jobs push, like job growth pushes home value. If it's real value, right? If there's no jobs backing up, meaning there's no people coming into the state to fill new jobs, then there's no real value of building more homes and seeing the home values increase. If the home values are increasing and there's no job growth, that's 100% inflation factor, right? If all the homes are being bought private party or single family to single family, citizen purchases, as opposed to corporation purchases, like those are other factors. The biggest factors I see and pay attention to. We still have in our market, a large percentage. The highest percentage is private party purchases, meaning citizens buying homes. We have, I think, 21% that are corporate purchases.
Okay.
Most of those corporate purchases are turning around and renting them right away. Some of them are staying vacant. So the question is, okay, the ones that are staying vacant, who's buying those and what's the nefarious purpose behind that? Why would you buy an investment property to keep it vacant?
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah, so weird.
Yeah, in case you guys don't know, Scott and I are former real estate guys. I started real estate in 94. I did that for a good 10 plus years and then off and on since then. So sorry to stretch out this real estate discussion. It's kind of what Scott and I know fairly well, especially in our area, right?
When we talk money, like that's what I look at the most because I look at like cost of living, income, and housing.
Construction.
and then I look at consumer goods stuff. Shouldn't say consumer goods, consumables, food, cattle, like all those things are the things that I look at. Commodities. I don't really give a lot of credit to everything else because everything else is so, I believe, falsified. Even though there's a lot of falsification in these things, the demand for them, if we're seeing true demand, that's a huge indicator of where things are. And what's funny is if you look transitioning out of real estate, if you look at the food market, what's happened in food prices in the last few months? They've dropped significantly. A lot of the different retailers are announcing that they're dropping prices. Hey, guess what? We're going to drop prices. Yeah, you had record profits for the last 2.5 years.
Right. And the reason why that I'm seeing, in my experience, is that a lot of these companies saw the opportunity that they could raise their price and the consumer would still pay it. And they've finally gotten to the point where they no longer have the ability to control the price.
Yeah,
because if they raise the price or hold the price, they're going to lose market share. So they have to lower their price.
The demand went down and they had to drop their price to be able to start selling again. Right. That's true. That's a true economic turn point, which is great. However, it's still overvalued or still overpriced, but they're selling it for what they can get away with.
I track my net worth every month. At the third Tuesday of every month, I get in and I track two net worths. One is my total, which is including the equity of my home. And then I have what I call liquid net worth, which is just my cash, like cash, gold, silver, just stuff that it's either cash or easily converted to cash.
Right.
Yeah, I consider stock, things like that. I could sell those quickly. I still consider those kind of that in that liquid era or that liquid section. And what's interesting is that there's a statistic I was looking up, like how many Americans have a positive net worth, and the statistic came up like 90%. I'm like, there's no way 90% of Americans have a positive net worth. And then I read the fine print. It was like, due to the equity in their homes, they have. So I was like, bingo, that's it. There's this false sense of security that people have that, oh, I'm doing fine. I got 30 grand on the credit card, but I got 100 grand in equity. So I'm fine. No, like, no, you're not.
You don't have it until you actually sell it.
Right. Exactly. So to me, it's like, get out of debt, get your money, get a fat savings account. And what's funny, I posted recently on my, Facebook page. So if you guys want to follow me on my Facebook page, you're welcome to. Just look me up, Paris Clough. Anyways, I posted on my Facebook page. There was somebody who was like, we had a guest on, Josh Doan. He came on and he actually created a meme that says, I'll be okay through the crash because I have money in savings. And then the next thing was like, oh, that's funny. You think what you have is actually money, And so the reality is like how many, like, we might have, ones and zeros in our bank accounts, but if crap hits the fan, power goes out, something happens, like, what are we doing, financially? We're not preparing properly for a potential crash. And, here's, let me just share my screen real fast, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
So what I'm going to share with you here first is the S&P 500. So the S&P 500, as you can see, just in the last couple of days, August 1st, it was at 5,500, which higher than it is now. I mean, it was high. It was like, in July, it was almost 5,600. It was 5,600. But you see over the last couple of weeks, we just had this 500, like it was a pretty big, what we would consider a crash. I remember opening up my accounts and I was like, oh crap, are we going down? Is this it? Is this the crash we've been waiting for in the election year? And then I was like, okay, let me just wait. Let me hold on. That's by the way, that's what you're supposed to do when it comes to stocks. You're supposed to just kind of take a deep breath. And when the stock prices drop, you're supposed to buy more. That's what they tell you. I personally feel like that's all good. That's okay, but still buy more gold and silver anyways, and food storage and water. But here we are. It's back to almost 5,500 again. And what's interesting is that the same thing happened with the Dow. The Dow Jones hit 40,000, over 40,000, first time this year. I think in the whole history of the Dow. And now we're back. We had a huge from 40. I mean, that doesn't sound like a lot, from 40 to 38, but that's a huge dip. And now we're climbing back up. So just be careful with your investments, guys. I think that there's some wisdom in keeping an eye on the stock market. But I'm not going to I'm just generically going to share with you a thought. Okay. This is not financial advice because I don't have you sitting in front of me and I don't know your whole situation. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. If you have a bunch of money in the stock market right now and you have no food storage, no water storage, no, your gear is lacking, and you are up the wazoo in debt, credit card debt. Yeah, I would reallocate. I would take a long, hard look at reallocation. And if you want, exact advice, hit me up and we'll set an appointment. But the point is that when the markets are fluctuating and potentially in an election year, we could see something like this happen. It's time to, I personally feel like it's better to have your food, your water, your fat savings, like PHAT fat savings in a high yield savings account. I'm talking about 4 or 5%, and then let the market do what it's going to do. Like pull the cash. So like even I'm sorry, guys. I'm kind of taking over here.
You're going.
You're
You're going rogue.
Yeah, dude. I'm just.
You're pulling a chain. Here's what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm pulling a chain. So I was watching several of the biggest investors in the world. We know Warren Buffett is kind of like one of those fancy, names that everybody knows. He just sold off, I think, 20% of he had owned a bunch of Apple stocks.
Apple, yeah.
And he just sold those off and he went into cash. What does Warren Buffett know that we don't know? So when Warren Buffett sells and goes into cash, and basically what cash means is he's got it into safer investments. He's got it, it could actually
bonds.
Technically it could be bonds. It was actually, I think, treasuries. But the point is that he put it out of the volatility of the market and he brought it in. And when guys like that make those kind of moves, it's probably time to think about what we ought to, I would say it's time to take a look at what you're doing.
Well, did you see the volatility, the VIX a week ago Monday when we had that big crash?
Oh yeah, it went to super greed.
Yeah, it went to like 70. And some trades, I was talking to my brother, he does some options and such. Yeah,
I had to. I'm like,
well, that's true. This is Paris's his place here. But anyway, some of these trades that some of these guys who did options, they made 25,000% that day on their VIX, and some quite a few much less than that, but still. It's your choice. I choose not to participate in the markets. I think it's too high risk, and I don't know what the heck I'm doing. But I wanted to address, we were talking about real estate, and Gray Man said, our children will never be able to never be able to afford this. And geez, Paris, and I'm scared about that too. But I think what we need to do is just take a different approach to it. I think right now rents are coming down a little bit, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to make some hard decisions, or some people do, in that, okay, am I going to take advantage of that equity? I'm going to sell and rent and take that equity and put it into something of growth, like maybe this, or put it into a property that's more rural, where you're going to get more for your money, something you can or your currency, where you can actually afford to an affordable payment, a house, something different than being in the city, and then following the typical program. You got some right there too?
No, this is a bullet.
Oh, okay. Or some of that too. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. I think, taking cash and changing forms. There you go. Some silver. It's just changing forms, putting into something else. Like you're saying a high yield savings account of 4 or 5%. Yeah, it's traditionally not high, right? But now it's considered high. I think gold is up 18% this year. So
yeah,
silver's 20 something percent, something like that. So for me,
honestly, though, they're using terms that they used to be defined one way, and that's what we're thinking. But I think they've changed the definition of high. I think it's high. That kind of high yield, right? So I think we just need to take a different approach, Gray Man. And there's a lot of people that say, I'm putting money on the sideline, like Buffett, and he's waiting for blood in the streets and waiting for the house prices to go down.
I personally would not take that. I mean, this is again not financial advice. That would not be my stance. I don't know that is actually going to take place within a reasonable amount of time. Obviously, to each his own. My strategy is obviously different, but there are a lot of people who are setting aside, waiting for these good deals. I don't know that they're going to happen. I don't know that's a sure thing yet. So, but yeah, relocating to lower cost areas, if that's an option for me,
Well, I mean,
a more rural area where you can get a lot more for your money.
I mean, just not just housing alone, but I was at, I took my daughter, we went on a daddy-daughter date, and I took her to Taco Bell because that was she chose.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
was $30 for her to have I think she had 2 quesadillas and a freeze. And I had like 2 chicken Chipotle burritos, and it was $30. I was like, I literally told her, I said, when you are a mom and you're taking your daughter, it's gonna be 300. Like you're gonna have to make so much freaking money to be able to pay for Taco Bell.
We went out to dinner 2 weeks ago, and in a sit-down restaurant where you're paying a tip, I spent less money than I did in the drive-through probably the last 7 times. And it doesn't matter which drive-through you went through. Like the price gouging is ridiculous in fast food right now.
It is.
I don't know if you guys remember during the summer, Wendy's, or not summer, during beginning part of the year, Wendy's was trying to do on-demand pricing for their meals, where if they had more than 10 people in line, the price would go up. So they had live changing prices on their foods while you're in there buying. Like you're walking into the stock market to buy food. And they were doing that to balance demand. And I'm like, dude, take a lesson and learn from Chick-fil-A. Just always have your line out the door, always have your line 7 miles down the road, right? And be fast. And you'll make more money than trying to do it this way. They lost so much business, they turned it off. I think it was like 8 days they ran the thing. And they shut it off. Like, wow, that was a bad idea. I'm like, dude, anybody outside your corporation could have told you that was a bad idea. Like the volatility of our market, I think, is the most undertold story, because everywhere you look, prices are ridiculous. Everywhere you look, everyone is over leveraged. And the worst example of that is our government. The United States of America is absolutely ridiculously backwards leveraged. Before the show, we were talking about this, and I pulled up some data and some numbers. Like the countries with the lowest debt to GDP ratio, meaning they make more money than they have in debt. The top 10 are as follows: Switzerland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Czech Republic, Estonia, Singapore, Taiwan, South Korea, and Russia. And of those 10, the number one country with the lowest per household debt is Singapore. They have more money in savings, and they're putting more money away and use less debt than any of those countries. Right? They have the smartest financial policy over everybody. But then let's look at the other side of it. The worst countries right now, Japan could be in the top 2, but as of a month and a half ago, Venezuela was upside down 350%.
Did you see the Venezuelans right now? They're literally throwing their dollars in the trash because they're worthless.
Again,
I saw, yeah, right. Yeah, they did. It's happened throughout history. You're right. But recently, apparently, there's a video that I saw that was just a recent one where they were throwing their bolivars, or whatever they call them, in the trash because it was totally. I mean, they had to. It was literally like back in with the Germans and the Marks, where it was a wheelbarrow full of their money to buy just simple, like 1 or 2 items at the grocery store, which is ridiculous. Yeah.
Okay. For those of you in the comments, you two can't answer this. For those of you in the comments, I want you to tell me top, like, just where do you think the U.S. is on that scale? Or like, do you think they're number 2 in the worst category? Number 3, number 4, number 5? Do you think they're in the top 5 worst? Do you think they're in the top 10 worst? I want to see in the comments. You guys start throwing these in here, and I'm going to start telling you who's. I'll count out a few of them, but I want to see what you guys say in the chats as I'm reading this. So basically, the debt is higher than the actual GDP they bring in, right? GDP, gross domestic product, how much money we're creating as a country versus how much money we're in debt. We're spending so much money in debt. It's worse. It's well beyond our GDP. Question is, where do you think we are? So number one, worst is Venezuela. Number two could be Japan. This isn't updated with the current situation. It's pretty bad. Mike, wrong. Venezuela is number one. Sudan is number two on this report. Number two, I've got three people saying we're printing a lot and we're number one or number two. So you're all wrong so far. Venezuela is number one at negative 350%. Number two is Sudan, negative 259%. J.R. Henry, top 10 worst? Well, yes, you're correct. Greece is number three, negative 206%. Like, this is how much more debt we have than money we're raising. Like, if you ran your household this way, you'd have been kicked out a long time ago. Why haven't we posted notice on the White House and posted notice on Congress? Like, you're behind on your payments, you're out. You got 30 days to move. Like, let's refill those seats with people who can make sense. Number four, did I say three already? Three is Greece, negative 206. Four is Italy, negative 156%. And coming in at number five, you know, we like to be the best at everything, but we didn't quite make it. The United States, negative 127%.
When Japan is up in there,
that means we're spending more than double what we're making.
Well, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. Let me share this with you as well. This is the U.S. debt clock, and there's a lot. This is very, very busy. So I want to, if those of you that are watching online on YouTube and the video, look at the top left corner. It says U.S. national debt, 35, I think that's trillion. Look how fast that thing is moving. Let me do a little
35 trillion.
$35 trillion. That's 100,000 debt per citizen, over a quarter million per taxpayer. And then let me share this screen, which is our GDP. Oops. Let's see. Our GDP is 25.4 trillion. We're literally 10 trillion more. We're at 150% of debt to GDP. And that I remember there's a Twitter account that actually tracks the debt, the US debt. And I've been on that Twitter account, I don't know, for probably 5 to 10 years. And I remember back when it was 17, 18, headed towards 20, the debt. And so the fact that we are seeing, $35 trillion in debt, we're only bringing in 25 trillion. Like dude, guys, come on. Like,
and the July numbers were just provided for the federal deficit, the budget deficit, $243 billion in 1 month. Wow. Deficit. That's the second biggest since July of 21, the middle of COVID.
All right, so here's my bringing it home. Bring it home. Our country's numbers. That's like, dude, you're looking at, all of us right now are looking at these numbers, and we're like, that is the stupidest thing. Our country is an idiot. What are we doing? How did this happen? Why are we this way? And so let me just bring it home real quick. And I'm sure none of you who are actually live with us listening right now, but maybe some of you who are listening, you're like, well, if I actually looked at my income and how much credit card debt I had, I'm living like the country is. We follow the example of our leaders a lot of times. And if you're living the same way our country is, please make the change. I'm going to be a strong proponent. I believe that we should make America great again. I believe in that principle. However, I first think to make America great again, we got to make our states, and we got to make our communities, and we got to make our neighborhoods, and we got to make, then the building block of that is to make you great again. Get your money in order, get your finances in place. Imagine if you were debt free, and imagine if you had money in savings. Imagine if you had extra, you had an abundance now, positive cash flow, your savings accounts were full, your credit cards were empty. And you were like, hey, look, we need to go and pool our money to battle against the George Soroses of the world, or these other, whatever woke agendas of the world. Dude, imagine how much power we would have. Money speaks, money talks. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. I mean, there's other things that talk in this world as well. However, money does have a very significant voice. And when you have it, you can make a difference. And so I feel like that's just kind of where I'm going to go with what I'm trying to teach and preach and help, kind of move that movement along, is like, let's get Americans great again with our money. That way we can then translate that into a bigger, more of us having good, strong, solid, positive cash flow and wealth to be able to use and live in abundance.
Yeah, you really can't, at least I'll speak for myself. I really can't figure out how to be adequately prepared unless I have good information, the right information, right? You can't be in the dark and expect to make good decisions. There's certain things you have to understand when it comes to the budget, the U.S. finances, the U.S. debt, basically the entire market, how the system works. One thing that I think you've got to understand, that I think I've come to understand, is that the Fed, everyone is working behind the scenes to keep things from absolutely crashing and falling apart. And yes, I am an apocalyptimist, right? But I'm a apocalypse head guy first, than an optimist. And I see where there's stealth QE happening behind the scenes, I believe anyway. Whereas the bond rates are going down, right? Who's buying the bonds? Nobody knows. Take one guess. Have one guess. The buyer and seller of last resort is always one, the Fed. That's the way it always is, always will be. They have their own balance sheet. They have their own dark money, dark pools, and so forth. So they can do pretty much whatever they want and not have to tell us a darn thing. So whatever we see, interest rates, inflation, everything is far worse than we are being told, than we actually see, because so many things are happening behind the scenes to keep those down, under wraps, hidden, that if that was not happening, it would have collapsed years and years ago. 2008, right? We know for a fact 2008, we were told that if we didn't shut everything down and start printing, that the entire world financial system would have collapsed within 24 hours. We were told that. And that was 2008. And they've been printing like crazy ever since. And I think it's a lot worse than we can possibly imagine, because they don't tell us the truth, and there's no way we can actually know the truth.
Last month, the Asian countries sold off $40+ billion of U.S. treasuries, U.S. bonds. Like, that's not good. When other countries have when they're divesting U.S., assets, so to speak, or whatever you want to call it, when they're divesting from that and getting away from it, that's a sign that something, it's at least something to look at and be ready for. And that's something that just happened last month. Or at least the news says that it was, they released it last month.
Yeah. Like, oh, by the way, no big deal. But and what's funny though is like, we see this, and these are indicators, but we see this over and over and over and over and over again. And yet the reality of our situation still is unknown, because so much is happening. Shane, you mentioned QE on the back end, stealth QE, quantitative easing, right? That's what QE stands for those of you who are like, what was that? But it's all happening behind the scenes and below the radar and not being published. Why? Because the American populace does not have a real news outlet. They're all under the same few umbrellas. They're all owned by the same groups. And so they're only going to give you the narrative that they want you to have. That's why it's called programming instead of a schedule.
I mean, it's a huge part of it is inflation. Inflation is the hidden way for them to, so let's say, for example, that inflation, I mean, they came out with the numbers and they said it was 3%, whatever. I don't believe it. Nobody believes it. I mean, those that are paying attention were like, yeah, right, whatever. You've manipulated the numbers to make it look like that. The real inflation rates, let's just pretend inflation's 20%. Well, if inflation is 20% and your stock balance stayed the same, you technically just lost 20% in the stock market, because the value of the dollars in the stock market just lost 20% of purchasing power. And so that's a hidden collapse. That's a hidden collapse in the market that not a lot of people kind of pay attention to and realize. And when I heard that for the first time several years, a while ago, I was like, man, that makes sense. Like if my dollars, if I have 100 grand sitting in stocks and the purchasing power of that loses 20%, my balance still shows 100 grand. So I'm like, ooh, yeah, I'm not losing any money in the stock market. Well, you know what? I can only buy $80,000 worth of stuff with that 100 grand now. And so you literally, it's like a hidden tax. It's a hidden, crash. It's a hidden thing. And that's where I feel like, that's why I'm saying, let's hunker down as individuals in America. Let's pull ourselves away from the consumerism, pull ourselves away from the hamster wheel, pull ourselves away from this programming, like Scott was saying, of, spend, because everything's great and everything's going to be great. Well, I feel like it'll be better if we had fat savings and we had positive cash flow and we were, had fat food storage and fat water storage and great gear for our stuff. That's, to me, that's tranquility. That's serenity. Man, it's so nice to not have, it's just been very nice to not have credit card debt. For the last, for me, it's been almost 15 years since I've had credit card debt. And I'm just telling you, it's worth it just to live that way.
So we talk about inflation and the negative impact. There's this guy that went viral a few weeks ago maybe it was a month ago now, on TikTok, because he saw in his shopping cart that he could do a reorder. And he's like, oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. So he looked 2 years ago at his order for $126. That was enough groceries for basically, I think it was 2 weeks or the whole month.
I remember that. That was a really good video.
For a whole month of groceries. 2 years ago, a whole month of groceries, a single guy, $126 bucks. Man, when I was single, this is more than 12 years ago, I was still spending $200 a month on groceries and eating out. And I spend too much money. But this guy's thin. I'm not. All that aside, he hit reorder and his total came out to $414. That's a 378% increase. 378% increase. Like if that doesn't give you a better understanding of how high inflation has gotten, how ridiculously overpriced everything is because of the hidden tax of inflation, it affects us everywhere. At the gas station, it affects us at the grocery store. If you're buying your clothes on Temu, it might look cheaper, but you're utilizing slave labor, right? There's an operating cost for everything, and you're involved in a world economic situation where they're intentionally jacking costs up to see how much they can squeeze while they play their little shell game with the money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and another thing that we don't, unless you're looking for it, unless you're following alternative media, you don't hear about is all the job losses, all the store closings. And they're all clues. Big Lots is closing 300 stores. I think in the last month, in net, I think over 100,000 jobs were lost. Am I right there, Paris? I think that's just in the last month. And then I think Home Depot came out today or yesterday with their report. They're down 3 to 4%, which is a clue to what's happening with the housing industry for home improvements and so forth. And it 3 to 4% doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're a corporation, you're tracking profits and trying to pay your shareholders and adjust. And then what do? They say, oh, we're losing money. We need to fire people. That's the first thing they do. They need to decrease their expenses, and that's the first thing they'll do is start cutting jobs. So all these things are adding up, but it's hard to see.
They're big stores too. They're not like some random stores. Like I'm reading right, Family Dollar, Dollar Tree, Red Lobster.
Yep.
I mean, these are some big brands. They're closing up shop. I mean, there's 1,400 U.S. stores in 2024 are announced to be closed, and that was back in May. And that's the crazy thing. It was like May, dude. That was forever ago. It was 2 months ago, bro. Like it was like 2-3 months.
I'm showing 3,200 stores, retailers closed in so far this year.
And I wouldn't doubt it because this was back in May. I don't know why my Google didn't pull up more recent results, but
Well, it's Google.
Thank-
That's why.
yeah, thankfully yours did. Oh, in fact, my phone just said, "Hey, how can I help you?" Because it's heard me say Google.
Yeah.
They're
Turn that
listening.
sucker off there, Paris.
I know, huh? I should, especially for this episode or in other episodes, like when I should turn my phone off completely. Well, I got to put it in the other rooms. They'll still figure out a way to, listen in. I'm sure.
They always do. It's funny because like we talk all the time offline, and those of you who are listening probably don't know. I've suffered a back injury a few years ago, working on trying to get it fixed, trying to do every different little thing, and it's funny because it's like I'm taking notes in my phone. I'm not saying much around my phone, but I guess they might be hearing my doctors, but I'm taking notes, and now I'm getting like just blasted in if I hop on social media, every channel I hop on, I'm getting ads from Utah spine specialists and like, oh, do this treatment, it'll save you. And I'm like, no, I'm not. No, if you're marketing to me a solution, you're not what I'm looking for. That's what's happening. Everything is listening. Everything is consumerism. Walmart just bought out a TV brand. Do you guys remember that? I think they bought out Vizio.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Because of the information gathering that they can get by now owning Vizio. Because they can then take the already existing systems and structure, and this is what they said in their press release, and use it to maximize their advertising dollar to their consumers.
Wow.
Guess what kind of TV I'm never going to buy?
Right.
Vizio, right?
And they're the cheapest ones too. Like you can get a 70-inch TV at Walmart for like $500, I think. I mean, I don't know what it is, but a buddy of mine was there the other night, and
Probably cheaper than that.
yeah, and he was saying the same thing. And just real quick commercial for those of you who have logged on a little bit late on the live, thank you so much for being here with us. We have updated our YouTube. We now have super chats, super thanks, and supers that we have available. So if you want to support the show and get a shout out on the show, hit us up with a super chat. Earlier in the show, we had Grayman Actual hit us up with a super thanks, and we want to super thanks him back, or super chat him back and say thanks. So if anybody's out there wants to support the show and wants to take advantage of our new super thanks and super chats, make sure you hit us up. So go ahead, Scott. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say Walmart, $598 for a 70-inch super smart TV, LG. I remember do you remember when plasma TVs came out?
Yeah,
this is
a couple grand.
$2,000 minimum starting point to get a plasma TV. And those are like 40-inch starters. And now it's like you can get almost double the screen for a fourth of the price. And yet the cost of everything else is going up. Right? They're only increasing the price on the things that they know they can gouge you for. They're keeping prices low on things that they can gather information from you. Has your cell phone price gone up much over the last 5-10 years? When you go to get a new phone, is it much more than it was before?
No, it's still right around that 800 to 1,000-ish range.
Yeah.
Max.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's really weird. If we're seeing a 300% increase in inflation on food prices, why aren't we seeing that on our cell phones?
Yeah, exactly.
True. Yeah.
Valuable to them. The information is more valuable. Yeah,
I
they
think
are listening.
One of the big things is our discipline too, because we get advertised to so much. They have so much. These guys know human behavior. They know human psychology. They know language. They know neurolinguistic programming. By the way, look up neurolinguistic programming. It's a way that the subtle speech and other things come about. But if you know some of the weapons against that, you can fight against it, and you can not be so programmed and conditioned and persuaded and influenced. Really manipulated is the real word, I would say. So I was talking to my son and his roommate, and I was like, yeah, we have like 4 TVs in our apartment. I'm like, what do you need 4 TVs for? Well, we need one for the game. We need one for, the video game. We need one for the football game. We need one for, I'm like, is that where we've been conditioned to consume, is that we need to have that much stuff in our lives? My opinion, stop buying stupid stuff. Don't buy stupid things anymore. Buy stuff that brings you value. Get down to the basics. Get a positive cash flow in your income and expenses, and get a fat fat savings account. And then let's work on food storage, water storage, and other things. You know what I mean? Like that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because it's like I think we're preaching to the choir. I know you guys listening, like you're like, why would I do that? But what's funny is it's our friends, our neighbors, our brothers and sisters around the world that are like, well, mostly in the United States, that are just spending like everything's on fire.
Yeah. I mean, it's my son and his roommates I'm talking to. Like my son.
I think
They don't listen.
He was like, Dad talked about this so much that I'm over it.
Right? Yeah. I'm going to buy another TV anyways.
My kids are so young. They're like, huh? I'm like, fire drill. Huh? Earthquake drill. Turtle. Oh yeah, we know that one. I'm like, okay, at least they're learning something. But yeah, I'm hoping the collapse comes and goes so that my kids can grow in a post-apocalyptic world where things are on the rebuild, and those weak men who created hard times are gone, and now the strong men are building good times, great times, wonderful times, like that we're living. Like my ideal is that we move to a small homestead, not completely rural, but semi-rural, have some of the benefits of living near a city, but also be able to go completely grid disconnect, right? So that we can still have a closer community. Because like if you read the book One Second After, and you read the details from Homeland Security and from supposedly the FBI and CIA, they all say that in 3 months of a national power outage, if we have a long sustained power outage for 3 months, 90% of the population won't survive.
Mm-hmm.
So as a prepared minded person, you need to, number one, make sure that you have the resources to get you through at least 90 days to start.
Yeah, minimum.
Like we talk about that 90-day home store, the 90-day pantry. That's not just food. We started using the word home store because it should be your private bank at home or in a safe space, not leveraged with a credit union or bank, right? You should have 90 days minimum worth of food, 90 days minimum worth of water and water filters. Not necessarily have all the water on site, but have a refill plan, a resupply plan, have enough fuel or energy creation that you can generate heat, cook and prep your food, right? Have cleaning supplies. That's why you need at least 90 days. Well, but then after the 90 days, then what? Get the 90 days and don't stop. Work to the year. Have seeds stockpiled. You know, we've got, if you go look at the links in our bio, you can see we've got connections with survival seeds. We've got connections with all these different wonderful things. Stockpile those things. And if you have land, start dumping food trees everywhere.
Yeah.
Just change out all your trees to something that produces food.
I want to Rock and Ryan Olson. I get this totally. Is this a different? This kind of looks like WebDad changed his name. Maybe not. Maybe I'm sorry. If you're a different guy, then sorry. But I get this whole thing that you just said. Consumer. This whole is a whole video. I should probably do a video on this comment right here in my financial channel, because the trickery with which they bring about this digital system, and you're right. You're actually absolutely, you said here is right, that the bank makes money on your money and it taxes the money on the money. And it's like this horrible loop where your $50 dwindles to zero, where cash 50 is always cash 50. Gold is always gold. Silver is always silver. So there's just some things to really think about. I feel like they keep us in this They only tell us what we want to hear, and then we grow up thinking, "Oh, this is the way it is," and then they're like, "Oh yeah, you keep going," and then we'll just do what we want to do over here on the backside of everything. And
Right.
I appreciate that comment, Ryan, Rock and Ryan Olson, because that's legit. There's for those of you who are listening on the audio, I'm sorry, but he basically shared a comment that talked about what I just said about how when you swipe a card, the fees that happen, the $50, and then the next guy swipes the card, and the vendor, by the time the $50, if you track that $50 through a life cycle of spending, it'll be dwindled down to zero because all the fees and other things that are happening. And so
Usage fees, processing fees, taxation,
yep.
and then they tack on sales tax on top of that,
Uh-huh.
and then they do it to the next guy and the
Yeah.
next
And
guy.
if you handed a vendor $50 and then that vendor used that $50, the $50 would always be $50 cash.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think we can guarantee that cash is going to be around, right?
Yeah,
I think it's going to be gone very shortly. The next big episode, next big crash, whatever you want to call it, it's going away.
I like how you said episode in this, because we were talking about the season of America, right? The season of America, whatever we are, America, episode
programming.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I do try and use cash as much as possible, but it's definitely going away. There's nothing we can do about it. Other than being your own bank, having your own precious metals to where you can barter with, because that's really what's going to come down to. Because at some point, if you can't get dollars, what are you going to sell your gold and silver for, right? You're not going to be able to get dollars, so they won't exist. You'll have to barter with it. Will you be able to transfer that into the new system, digital currency, whatever it is? I kind of doubt it. I really kind of doubt it. It's going to be peer-to-peer at that point. So that, I think, I guess probably the thing I'd want to finish off with here is become your own bank. Be independent of the system as much as you possibly can. Right now, you can do that with cash. You can do that again with gold and silver, with lead, brass. All those types of physical assets. That's the most important thing to me.
Yeah, definitely get what you need, use what you need, stop buying frivolous things, stop wasting time on. I think the biggest thing I can say is stop wasting time on frivolous things. Endeavors that don't create real long-lasting value in your life. Some of you may have some fun hobbies, but that you spend a lot of money on. Probably not in our audience. Cut back on that and put it towards things that actually last. Get your own gold and silver. Get your food pantry up to snuff. Get the things you need and be wise and prudent in all you do. Spend more time learning and doing and less time chasing and spending.
Yeah. And speaking of that, actually, we just saw Scott sent me, we don't get anything for it, but if you go check out Nicole Appelian, she recently just started a course on herbalism and creating your own home remedies. So look her up and jump into that. I think she's having a deal where the first couple hundred people get it for a special price. Again, we're not affiliates for that. We just really appreciate Nicole and her work and want to set that, let everybody know that wants to build those skills. That's a great resource.
Amen.
Do we have any? Do you have any last minute thoughts, guys? Or
I'm just chatting here in the group.
I think I just had mine. I mean, really, it just comes down to be prudent in what you're doing. It's funny because we spend a lot less money now. I look at the bank account and I'm like, oh wow, the amount's staying the same for the last probably 4 weeks. It has not really moved much. And it's because we've really taken a conscious effort in our household to stop spending on things that don't give us long-term value. I'm really trying to teach my kids to not want all the toys they see, because there's a lot. Mm-hmm. Everything in marketing is about the kids right now. If you can get the kids to buy it, the parents will lose the money because the parents are stupid.
Mm-hmm. They'll want to do whatever they can.
Right?
Yep.
Shut them up, whatever you need to do. Right. But I would rather focus on educating them on things that are valuable and spending time with them on things that are valuable, building value, than buying toys, buying garbage, we need to take more personal responsibility in our households over our finances, over our resilience plans than we have been. Otherwise, we're going to lose everything.
Yep. Awesome. Well, guys, thanks so much for listening. Thanks for being a part of the show. If you want to give us a super, we just, once again, we have now got the opportunity for every video, every episode has a thanks tab next to it. If you watch on YouTube, there's a thanks tab. You can click that and donate to our cause, donate to the show. While you're with us live in the show, there's a super chat option now that you have that you can donate to the show if you want to participate there. But then also, those are fun things for you guys to donate. But we also really want to make sure you're getting the gear that you want by sharing with you some of our favorite places to go and get gear. And then we have affiliate links for them. And that's, of course, Survival Frog is one of our favorites that's in the description below. Please do that. Go there. And if you want to get into, there's a preparedness challenge right now. If you want to jump on that, there's a link in the description below. Unfortunately, we don't have a way to kind of, a code. So if you're going to have to, pull over or write down or come back and visit the episode and copy and paste. But if you click on that link to the preparedness challenge, that'll give you an opportunity to really get some good, strong skill sets with our good friend, Marcelo and he's got a great class and a course there that is worth it. Guys, once again, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for staying with us and being prepared and ready-minded. You've been listening to Prepper Talk Radio, radio for the ready-minded, the podcast for the prepared. And until the next time, stay prepared, stay ready, and be watchful what's going on in the markets because things are changing and things are going crazy. So take care, guys. Thanks again.
Good night, everybody.
See you next week.